Hi guys. I hope you had a wonderful spring break. So as you guys know, today, Monday, is an asynchronous day, as is tomorrow and Wednesday, as always. So what we're going to do is today and tomorrow, we're going to be finishing up our pig unit asynchronously. So you guys are going to have today's lecture video, which is what you're watching now. And then there will be another lecture video for you guys tomorrow to watch to finish out our swine unit. And when we come back for the fourth quarter, we will, or when we come back synchronously, we'll be starting with our poultry unit, all about chickens, y'all. So today we're literally just going to keep it same format as always, because why switch up something that seems to work? You guys are going to work on warm-up number 23. Y'all know I got to have my laser on. Y'all are going to work on warm-up number 23. And then today we are going to do a little bit of math. I know I shouldn't even say a little bit because like the whole lesson is about math. So let me just pretty much be honest about that one. So we're going to practice some problems here over our asynchronous Zoom. And then you guys are going to have an assignment on doing some more of those math problems. So make sure you get warm-up number 23 done in today's assignment. So today we're going to be talking about pig grades. So if you remember when we talked about in our cow unit, prime grades, select grades, and they used to be called good grades, choice grades. And we also talked outside of quality grades, we also talked about yield grades, which pretty much just tells us how much meat can we expect to get off of that cow. Well, with pigs, it's a little bit easier because we kind of group quality grades and yield grades from cattle. We kind of group it together to form like one grade, make our life a little bit easier, thankfully. So the grades for these, for pigs, are literally just numbers. Number 1, number 2, number 3, easy stuff. And all of these are feeder pigs. Just like with cattle, if you have a feeder steer, what are you doing? You are feeding them more until they get to a weight that you desire. So a feeder pig is just a pig that we're raising so that it can get bigger, and then we're going to send it to market. So you can pretty much ignore everything outside of the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, because everything else is the same. With this grading scale for feeder pigs, we're considering a couple of things when we're trying to figure out, is it a number 1, is it a number 3, when we're trying to figure out what their grade is. So we look at their frame size, which is just how big is the animal. Are they bigger than the average pig? Are they the same size as an average pig? Or are they smaller than the average pig? If they're bigger than the average pig, then we would say that they have a large frame. If they're pretty average, we would say that they have an average or a moderate frame. And if they're smaller than the average pig, we would say they have a small frame. So outside of looking at their body size, which kind of lets us know how much meat they're going to have, we also look at how much muscle they have, because we like our pork lean. We don't want a whole lot of fat. So we like to look for pigs that have good muscle to them. So if we have a pig that has really good thick muscle on them, then if they have a large frame and a lot of muscle, then we're going to say that they're a number 1. If they've got a pretty good size frame, like they're slightly bigger than average, and they've got decent muscling, like the average, just about, then we're going to say they're a number 2. And if they're kind of on the smaller side and they don't have a whole lot of muscling, then we're going to give them a number 3. So you can look over here at this graphic that from the side, you can't really necessarily tell how big is this pig, how much muscle does this pig have. But you can really see it when the pig is facing away from us. We pretty much check them out, look at their butt. Big butt means a big ham, and a big ham means a big pig. So it's easy for us to see a look and say, all right, this number 1 pig has really big hams. Whereas if we look at a number 4 pig, they're not as defined. There's not a whole lot of muscle there. There's not a whole lot of meat. And so we can kind of see that even though we can't see frame size, we can't see how big they are, we can see in this little drawing that the pig's hams don't look very big. And they're probably going to have thin muscling. And if it's a number 4 or a number 3, then that also probably means that it does have a smaller frame size. It is smaller than the average. So when we're looking at the pig's muscling, we're going to be looking in their back area. I know we're going to be checking out their loin, which is right about at the top of their back where my little cursor is. Look at the little laser point. We're looking at their loin and we're looking at their ham. That's a really good, those are 2 really good spots for us to look and try to see how muscular are these pigs. And the grades pretty much just continue. You got a 4, you got a utility, which is just like, this pig is bad off. Rather than saying this pig is bad off, though, we say this pig is unthrifty, because that just sounds so much better, right? So we say this pig is unthrifty, meaning it don't look too good. It's not looking great. Maybe the pig's kind of sick. Maybe it's like super old. Maybe it hasn't been taken very good care of for some very unfortunate reason. But either way, this pig not looking too hot. So if we give a pig a utility grade, it's not a good grade. It's not a good grade. Y'all, you want to be number 1. You want to be number 1. It's just like that SpongeBob episode. He was number 1. I wish I remembered what his name was, what that character's name was. And then y'all know what culling is. So does animal not eat? We really ain't even worrying with this animal. All right. So this is essentially a picture of what I was just saying about where we're going to look for the pig's muscle. So A right here is right along their spine. So if we want to check and see and try to kind of guesstimate, if we wanted to see or place a bet or something and say, I bet this pig is a number 1, or no, that pig's definitely a number 2. If we wanted to place bets, well, we could try to kind of guesstimate what the grade would be by trying to figure out how much muscle does this pig have? Because you can look at their frame size and you can judge that pretty easily. But figuring out how much muscle they have, that's more difficult. So what you can do is if you take your fingers, you take your hand and you put your thumb where A is on that pig. And then you put your index finger to the right where that B on the right side is. Then when you put it there, you can kind of feel around where B is, and you should be able to feel muscle along their loin, which is going to be right along in here. So this whole little piece right here is the loin. But we're going to check it a little further up, right over their ribs. We're going to see. And this is also a good place for us to check, because if they don't have a lot of muscle, we're going to be able to feel their ribs. If they do have a lot of muscle, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to feel their ribs. So it's a really easy way to make sure, well, am I feeling muscle or am I feeling fat? I don't know. If you are feeling rib, then there ain't nothing between what you're touching. So this is a really good way to try to guesstimate what the pig's grade is going to be based on how much muscle they have. In order to be given a grade of number 1 or US number 1, the pig must have at least average muscling. So when they look at this pig, they have to have a large frame size. And if they don't have at least average or moderate muscling, they don't get that grade of number 1. And you know, number 1 is the only thing that's going to our shelves. So if you ain't getting number 1, you're taking a price cut. when they're looking and trying to figure out the grade of a pig, they look in our major retail cut areas or wholesale cut areas. The ham, the loin, the Boston butt or Boston shoulder, and the picnic shoulder. I'm gonna take a pause really quick, guys. Oh yes, sorry about that pause. Hopefully it doesn't look too weird when this video plays back to y'all. Need to check on something really quick. I think we should be good. So as I was saying, when they're looking at trying to figure out what the grade for this pig should be, they're gonna look at our major wholesale areas. Our ham, loin, Boston butt, and the picnic shoulder. Because these are our little money makers right here. Spare ribs, yeah, they're tasty, but not a very high price for them because there's not really a whole lot of meat. Half the word there is ribs, and I can tell you that half the weight there is the ribs. So there's not a whole lot of money in spare ribs. And then the same deal, not same deal, but same idea for bacon. There just isn't a whole lot of money there for bacon. It's cheap, it's easy to make. It's out of one pig, you get so much bacon. So the demand for bacon just isn't as high as it could be to turn bacon into a wholesale cut. Like people would have to be eating bacon with every single meal to make bacon be considered an expensive cut. Already went over that. So when they're giving these grades to the pigs, we were talking about, well, they have to have at least average or moderate muscling, all that stuff to get a grade. So to get a number 1, a pig will have to have like roughly, greater than or equal to is what that symbol means, 53% of their cuts of meat should be like lean, actual edible meat. We're talking about no bones. We're talking about most of the fat trimmed off. We're talking about all that stuff. When you break this animal down, you should have more than or less than or greater than or equal to 53% of that pig should be meat that can go to the grocery store. To get a number 2, a pig has to have between 50 and 53% pretty much. So you can tell like that's about average because a number 2 means average size pig or slightly above average, and then average muscling. So when they're looking at the pig and they've got it all taken apart, they've got it ready to go, between 50 and 53% of what they have from that pig should be stuff that's going to make it to the grocery store. The rest of it is going to get used elsewhere. The bones, the organs, the fat, the skin, like all that stuff is going to go somewhere else and get used for other things. But 50 to 53% of it should be edible to the people buying it in the grocery store. It should be making its way to the grocery store and nowhere else. A number 3 grade pig gets between 47 and 50% pretty much. And then a number 4, which is our unthrifty pig that does not look very good pretty much, less than 47%. So the percent difference is not huge. It's like a 6%, 7% difference between a number 1 and a number 4. So that just goes to show you that like the actual difference itself must be a lot. 7% doesn't sound like a lot, but it must be a lot because that's the difference between the best grade and the worst grade. So like I said, a lot of producers will try to kind of guesstimate what their grades are going to be. And they actually do have machines, which is what this picture is here, that can measure how much muscle your pig has. It's kind of like an ultrasound. So what they do is there's this nice little formula that we see at the bottom. This is where you get out your scratch sheet of paper and we take a pause. Sorry, y'all. It is spring break right now. I do not know why this building is so busy, but the building is busy. So like I was saying, producers can use this formula that we have right here at the bottom to try to guesstimate and figure out what their pig's grade will be. So the 4.0 and the 1.0 that we have right here, they are set numbers. They will never change. It is like PEMDAS. Parentheses will always be first. And then our two variables that we have are how much back fat the animal has. So that is what we measure right here. With this little tool, it'll measure like, oh, you have like an inch of back fat or 1.3 inches of back fat, like that kind of deal. And so you put how much back fat there is, and then you also put the muscling score. So you'll get a word problem. It's going to say, well, this pig has thick muscling, or this pig has thin muscling, or average muscling. And that literally, that word just equates to a number. Thick muscling, you give them a 3.0 down here. Average muscling, you give them a 2.0 down here. Thin muscling, yeah, you guessed it. You give them a 1.0 down here. So we're going to do two different kinds of problems today, and this is the first one. So what you're going to do, this is our little word problem right here. Calculate the USDA grade for a Barrow. Hopefully you remember what a Barrow is. Think about it, think about it, think about it. Hopefully you know, because I'm not going to tell you. Calculate the grade for a Barrow with average muscling and 1.6 inches of back fat. So all we do is we take our formula and we start filling everything in. So our back fat that we have gets put in right here. You plug it in. Our muscling score, you ask? Well, we go back to the word problem. It says the pig has average muscling. An average muscling equates to a score of 2.0. So that's why we have this 2.0 here. And then you really do just PEMDAS. You just solve what's in the parentheses. You do your subtraction. And then you round down. You do not round up. This is very similar to what we did with the cattle problems. You do not round down, or sorry, you do round down, you do not round up. You pretty much just ignore whatever is after this decimal. The only thing we care about is this good old whole number right at the front. So this pig gets a grade of 4. So that's not a very good grade, remember. It's not a very good grade. This pig has a lot of back fat. So let's walk through how to do another one. Calculate the USDA grade for a Barrow with thick muscling and 1.3 inches of back fat. So we just take our formula and we start plugging things in. We put in our back fat here. We have 1.3 inches. And then we have thick muscling. So that means we get a score of 3.0, which is why we have this here. Solve what's in the parentheses. Do your subtraction and ignore anything after the decimal. This pig gets a US number 2. Pretty good, but pig has a lot of back fat. That's really bringing the score down. So, depending on how you guys want to do it, if you want to pause this video and work on the first half of the problems on your assignment for today, you can. The first sheet of your assignment is 2 pages. The first page is a couple of problems, just like the ones that we just did. The second page of problems is just like the ones that we're about to do right now. So if you want to pause it and do the first half, pause it now, and then come back. So if you want to continue, that's what we're going to do here. So, well, let's say that the producer is just very displeased with how much back fat his pigs have. He's like, this is really bringing down the pig's scores and how much money I'm making. So what does that producer do? He is going to think smart and going to selectively breed his animals. He is going to pick pigs that do not have a lot of back fat and he's going to breed them together so that they have little babies that don't have a whole lot of back fat. So which pigs is he going to pick? Well, in this example, he's going to select gilts, which are our female pigs that haven't had babies. He's going to select a gilt that has 0.3 inches less back fat than the herd average. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. When 1.6 inches is a lot of back fat, 0.3 inches is also a lot. And then he's also going to select a breeding boar that has 0.5 inch less back fat than the herd average. And that is a lot. So what we're going to do, we do this in 2 different parts. I guess 3 technically. So we're going to split it up and we're going to do girls, we're going to do the gilts, and then we're going to do the boars or the boys. So this is what we're going to do for the girls. When you guys go to solve these problems, you don't have to write all of this out. This is just here to help you understand what we're doing right here. It's honestly very easy. So you're going to take whatever number we're looking for in the female pigs. We're looking for female pigs with 0.3 inches less back fat than the herd average. And then we're going to multiply it by the heritability estimate, which if you guys remember, that's just a number, a percentage that geneticists have come up with, and they say they're going to inherit about, like 50% of what their parents give them. So for back fat, about 50%. Pause. Okay, we're back. Pretty sure that was the last person to stop in my room. Fingers crossed, y'all. Fingers crossed. All right, so we were talking about heritability estimates, and a heritability estimate is literally just a percentage, in this case 50%, of what trait or quality, how likely offspring are to inherit it from their family, to inherit it from their mother and father. So they're going to get about 50% of what their parents' back fat is. Like there's a pretty good chance that if you breed pigs with a little bit of back fat, you're going to have pigs with a little bit of back fat. That's literally the whole idea behind selective breeding. People just don't realize how much science there is actually to it. So this 50%, this 0.5, it ain't going to change. It is going to stay the same every time we do these problems. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. We're going to we're going to multiply by 0.5 or 50% every time for this problem. So we do that and we get 0.15. Just 0.15 is such a small number. And then we're going to multiply it again by 50% or 0.5. But this time it's because offspring can only inherit 50% of their parents' genetics. So you got to multiply by half because the baby is only going to be able to get half of what the mom is offering. So you do that. That's all you really got to do for the girl side. Then you got to do it again for the boys, for the boars. So you get your number from the word problem for what we're looking for in the boars. You multiply it by that 50% heritability estimate. We get 0.25 when we do that. Then we multiply again by 0.5, this time because the dad can only give half of his genetics to the babies. That's just the way reproduction works. So we get 0.125. Then all we have to do is just add the 2 together. We add the Gilt's contribution of 0.075, and you add the boar's contribution of 0.125. And when you add those together, we get 0.2 inches. What this means is that if we breed this gilt with this boar, then they are going to have babies that when they grow up, they should have 0.2 inches less back fat than all the other pigs that were not selectively bred this way. They're going to be 0.2 inches of less back fat on these piglets because of who their mom and dad are. So we'll do one more. And then that's pretty much it. So this time around, we are looking for a board that has 1.2 inches less back fat than the herd average. And we're looking for gilts that have 0.8 inches less back fat than their herd average. So always do gilts first. And so we take the number that we have for the gilts, 0.8 inches, and we multiply it by that good old never changing, old reliable 50% heritability estimate. And we get 0.4. Then we multiply it by 0.5 again, since mom can only give half of her genetics to the baby, and we get 0.2. Well, then we got to do it for the dad. We got to do it for the boar. So we get the number that we're looking for the boar, 1.2 inches. And we multiply it by 0.5, that heritability estimate. And we get 0.6. Then we multiply it by 50% or 0.5 again, since the dad can only give half the genetics. And we get 0.3. Then you just add them together. Sorry, that's me. So then you just add them together, and that 1 point should not be there, but when we add them together, we get half an inch. We get 0.5 inches. So again, what this means is that these babies from this mom and dad, from this word problem, when they grow up and they start measuring their back fat, they should have half an inch less back fat than all the other pigs that this producer owns that do not have this mom and dad, because this is selective breeding. This is exactly what we're doing. We just don't even realize the science behind it. So that's pretty much it. Make sure you guys work on completing warm-up 23. Make sure that you do the worksheet. Make sure you're watching the video. Hopefully you are. And then get that submitted. And there will be another one posted for you guys tomorrow to finish up the swine unit. And then we will meet synchronously on Thursday. So keep in mind, like, the changing schedule, like what lunches you have, even though we're still at home. Like, we have A lunch, B lunch, C lunch back again. So if you guys have any questions about when your lunch is, what you need to do, all that good stuff, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me know if y'all have any questions. I will be at school while y'all are watching this video, even though it's spring break while I'm recording it. I will be here. I'll be at my computer, checking my email, checking out Canvas. So if you guys have any issues, send me a message and let me know. But other than that, I mean, that's it, y'all. Go on ahead and get what you need to done. And I will see y'all again on Thursday.